In this video I'm going to show you how you can make your own alternative vermiculite, and then to make that alternative product into a slow release fertilizer as well. So what is vermiculite? Well, vermiculite is a naturally occurring mineral that people use in horticulture and gardening as a kind of a soil amendment. So you might be wondering, well then why do I need an alternative when this product does the job? Well, firstly, it's expensive. You have to go to the garden centre and you have to buy it, and it often comes in a very small bag, so it won't last very long, especially if you are a hobby gardener who does a lot of growing. And the second reason is that it's not necessarily environmentally friendly or sustainable to use vermiculite. A lot of people don't know this. There's a huge emphasis on the destructive nature of using peat in compost here in the UK. In fact, I think it's banned. The ban is coming in soon. But vermiculite never really gets a mention, but vermiculite is not even a local product. We can't mine it here in the UK. So it has to be imported, and there are environmental impacts such as the sustainability, because it's a mined mineral. Obviously it's not going to last forever. It often is shipped over from China or Africa. And then there's a whole other subject about, the environmental impact, both where it's mined, in the country where it's mined, and also what the impact is here in our gardens, because this is a foreign mineral, a foreign rock, a foreign object. So our plants and animals and our soil is not adapted to this product. So it does raise questions about why we are introducing it to our compost and our soil. Well, at least it does for me. And so that's why I've come up with this alternative. So my new ingredient, like vermiculite, is very lightweight and porous and stable, which means it has many of the same properties as vermiculite, but it is a naturally occurring product that we do produce here locally in the UK and in every country on the planet. So it doesn't need to be imported from anywhere or mined, potentially damaging local environments. So what is my magic ingredient? Well, it is charcoal. So charcoal is just a great naturally occurring product in my garden, where I've chopped back my hedge that was growing too tall. I've obviously chopped that up into wood, which I use in my outdoor fire pits, but also in my log burner. And because I've grown it in my organic garden, I know my charcoal is organic, and so therefore I can reuse it and recycle it back into the garden without any potential damage and no waste products, and just creating this almost perfect circle of life from living wood to now enriching the soil. So of course you can make this at home even if you don't have a log burner, but many of you will have an outdoor fire pit, and even if you don't, you might have an incinerator. So there are all different ways you can make charcoal, but in short, don't use the shop bought barbecue charcoal, as often this can be inoculated with flammables and things like that, and you don't want to put those chemicals on your garden. So you will be better off making your own charcoal. I'll give you a very brief outline as to how to do it, but I will do a longer video on how I do it. I've kind of perfected it a bit, really. So what you would do is you get your fire going in the evening. Maybe you've got a fire pit going. As the fire is roaring, you want to slightly starve the oxygen by closing the vents at the bottom, etc. So the flames, and then eventually, like you would if you were going to bed at night, you close it up completely. You must have like a flue or some vent of some description, whatever your system is that you're using, because you definitely don't want it to explode or overheat or anything like that. So you allow some air to vent out the top, but you close all the oxygen that would be coming in the bottom, creating the flames, which will burn away the logs, and then the heat is just sort of saturated in the wood, and then the flames die, and in the morning when everything's died out and the heat and the energy have gone, you have charcoal rather than ash remaining in your grate. Once you have your charcoal, you can grind it up into various sizes and then grade the sizes. So you've got the dust, which you can help add to compost for seedlings, and then you've got like slightly larger grainy sizes that can be added to transplants, for instance, and then bigger sizes you can just dig directly into your soil to improve the structure of your soil. It's nice, it's lightweight, it's organic, and it's black, so it doesn't stand out like vermiculite does, which is white. But what we're going to do is we're going to now inoculate or activate our charcoal by adding nutrients to it, so that it also becomes a slow release fertilizer. It also absorbs moisture and slow releases that too. Now, if you're using the dust for seedlings, don't bother inoculating it, because the seedlings don't need any extra fertilizer at this stage, but we can inoculate the grain sized and larger sizes for transplant, container gardening and garden soil. So how do we inoculate or activate our charcoal and make it like a biochar? Well, we do that by first creating a compost tea. Now, as I said before, you can vary lots lots of different recipes how to make compost tea depending on what your particular plants or garden needs are, depending on your soil and what you're growing, etc. But here is a general recipe that I'm going to give you for the biochar that I'm going to inoculate. So what you need is a bucket, which you're going to fill with water, and then you're going to put in your ingredients to make your compost tea. And this is my general purpose compost tea here now, makes a general purpose fertilizer, and I'll put more details on my website. And then you're going to leave it to steep for 24 hours, and then we're going to start inoculating our biochar. Once our compost tea is ready, you can inoculate your biochar by just soaking it in the compost tea, preferably by adding the compost tea to your charcoal and not the other way around. I'm going to inoculate it with neat compost tea and just use a little, like a covering over it until it soaks up. Once it soaks up, I might add a bit more until I know that once the biochar stops absorbing the liquid, then I know that the biochar is fully inoculated or activated, whichever word you want to use, it's the same. And then we can use it then when we're planting up our tomatoes and our vegetables or improving our soil. You ideally need to soak the biochar for a bit longer than it needs to take the compost tea. So when you're making the compost tea, obviously you can keep that down the garden. That can continue to steep and it will get stronger. As it gets stronger, you can dilute it. But because I only did it for 24 hours for this demonstration, then I'm going to obviously add it neat to my biochar. But as it gets stronger, you may want to dilute it. I'm going to leave the biochar to soak until it can't soak up anymore. So obviously if it soaks up all this, I will apply some more compost tea, and I'll keep applying compost tea until it stops soaking up the compost tea. Then I'll know it's full, and then I will use it or store it. You can store it in a dark, cool container, so use something dark that the light doesn't penetrate, and then keep it somewhere cool in your garden, like under a shady hedge, behind the shed, or something where the sunlight doesn't penetrate. You don't need to wait for it to dry out before you store it, but don't store it soaked, like don't store it with excess liquid. So use the fully absorbed biochar, store that, but not extra liquid, because that could create bacterial problems that you don't want to introduce into your garden. But moist and inoculated is fine. If it does start to dry out, of course, add some more compost tea to keep it kind of activated until you're ready to use it. So you can make it in bulk, because it's, you know, it's a bit of a faff. You're going to take a day out of your weekend to make your biochar, so you might as well make a bucket full of it that you can just use as and when you need. So then to use your biochar, I'm going to use mine here to plant up my tomatoes and aubergines. I'm also going to use my drip irrigation that I used in my video last year, and I'll link that video below because honestly that was brilliant. So I always knew I was going to use that again. It's great when a DIY project works. And then I'm going to use this biochar as a slow release fertilizer. And the other good thing is, even if the fertilizer is exhausted from this biochar, it will receive more fertilizer. So if I go then to feed my plants again, if I'm concerned that all the nutrients have gone, I can refeed the compost, and the feed will soak into the biochar and act as a slow release. So it won't all drain out of the bottom, in other words. So there you go. That's my recipe for biochar. I hope you have a go at it and, you know, help save the environment by just reusing waste products, and help save your wallet as well. And don't forget to visit, if that did help and you use a version of this yourself already, then share your comments below and share your hints and tips below in the comments, because it always helps other growers. And also don't forget to visit my website, because I am actually putting on there, I've got my flowers almost ready to sell, but I only sell those locally obviously, but I am selling my art again on there, and I'm hoping to put together some plant combinations that I'll be able to sell as well. The art I can sell internationally, luckily not affected by Trump tariffs. So if you're an American and you want to buy my art, that's not going to be an issue. The other things I'll have to do by a case-by-case basis, because I'm also doing vintage vases, and some will be too fragile probably to ship internationally. But anyway, it's all going to be on there. I've got my books there as well. So take a look at that. That's obviously increasing all the time. And also, by the way, if you don't want to buy anything, that's fine, but so you can support the channel for free by subscribing and liking and commenting, because all that tells the algorithm that you are interested in my content and that you'd like to see more of it, which then in turn encourages me to make more of it. So you can support me that way. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye.